You know that feeling when you walk through the gates at Glastonbury and suddenly everything just makes sense? That feeling you carry around for weeks afterwards? Yeah, that one. Welcome to the 100% unofficial Glastonbury Festival podcast. I'm Paul from Glastonbury Tips, and every episode I'll sit down with someone who truly gets it. Fellow Glasgow obsessives, veterans, and anyone who's ever stood in a field at 3 a.m. thinking, I am home. So pull up a camping chair, grab a cider, and let's talk Glastonbury.
Hello. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're all keeping well. This is, of course, another episode of the 100% unofficial Glastonbury Festival podcast. I am Cy Wilmore, and as always, joined by the man of the hour, Mr. Paul Ferrugia. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in.
Guys, this is a goodie. We are speaking today to Robin Mahoney. He's the man who co-directed Glastonbury The Movie. This was shot back in 1993, back when there was hardly any coverage of the festival on TV.
Mate, I love the film when I saw it.
Yeah.
He's someone I've admired for years. The film literally has no voiceover, no talking heads how to feel. It's just the festival as it actually was.
Yeah, guys, back in 1993, the festival was a very different prospect. This is when The Verve turned up, and they were so unknown they didn't even have backstage camping. And Spiritualized blew their entire fee on a fireworks display.
I like it. Spending all your fee on the fireworks display.
Gangster, isn't it?
Brilliant. When it was released in 1996, Mike Leigh called it a masterpiece. And 30 years on, it's just had a full 4K restoration for the 30th anniversary cut. And it's back in cinemas this year.
So we thought it might be a good time to get Robin onto the show. He's going to talk about making the movie. He's going to talk about what's changed at Glastonbury and, of course, what hasn't changed at Glastonbury. Strap in, guys. This is going to be a goodie.
Robin, tell us about the magic of Glastonbury. What was your first experience?
Okay, so I wouldn't profess to be a Glastonbury aficionado in any way. And full disclosure, apart from sort of hanging out on the site here and there outside of the festival, I haven't been to the festival since 95.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yeah, so... And my first festival was 87. That was, your classic teenagers, just eye-opening, life-affirming, life-changing, the usual. But I had a wonderful time. Because it can go either way, can't it? I've known people that have just hated it. We'll probably touch on that later, but it's one of those things you just got to give yourself over to it, really.
Totally. I remember my second one, and I did so many things wrong. It's funny. The first one, I did a lot of things wrong. My second one, I was all over the place. And I vowed I'd get things right the next time I went. And hence why I set the website up and did the book and all that. It's like, some of these things are just silly mistakes that would make life so much easier if I rectify them, and I'll make sure other people don't go through these mistakes. Then the beginning of their festival will be so much more pleasant.
I mean, the thing is you've just got to learn to chill. That's probably one of the biggest lessons of it, is just don't stress out. And coincidentally and conveniently, the place itself has this kind of hum, if you know what I mean. It's the Vale of Avalon, and it's the ley lines, it's the vibes. And I think that, if you're lucky and you're receptive, they take you over. And you do kind of, you don't mind about the trench foot or the sunburn or whatever it is, or the long drops. So that's the big take home, is just to chill out, really.
That's it. You've just got to let go. You've just got to let go. And for 5 days, just forget the real world and be in a different world and just let go and, be that weird utopia that Glastonbury is.
Yes. If you know, you know.
Exactly. What are some of your favorite memories? Like any acts that come to mind in that 87 year or the years you went after?
All the ones that are in the film. How about that?
Good answer. Very good answer.
I think I might be a little bit crowd averse. So I've if I was to have seen a main stage act, I would have been halfway up the pyramid field walking across it back then, through the tents, So I was kind of like drawn to all the smaller stages, and even way back then, I was into more instrumental, kind of jazzy type things. So what was then the world stage before WOMAD happened, I spent a lot of time there. So watching kind of like interesting Peruvian, Andean flute bands, or whoever was passing through was on the jazz scene at the time, which kind of really took off in the late 80s. I did have a great time in 95 where it was afternoon, it was Orbital on the main stage. And then I think Oasis came on, and it just, I don't know, the entire sort of atmosphere completely dropped. The camera cranes came out, and there they were on stage, and they just stood there not doing anything. There was no movement or animation from them at all. They just kind of banged out their tunes. So we walked away from that, past the dance tent, and Galliano were playing, and they were doing the song from Woodstock, Long Time Coming. Anyway, Galliano did have one of their hit tunes was in the original Woodstock, and then the Shaman came on, and that was pretty banging.
Oh, that's a great double act.
Yeah.
I used to listen to both of their albums a lot in the 90s,
Yeah.
so that's a really, really good double act. You mentioned the film there. You're the co-director of the brilliant, and I mean brilliant, Glastonbury the Movie, that has been re-released in cinemas after 30 years. How did the film come about? Like you said, you went in 87 as a punter, and then literally a few years later, you're making a film there.
Okay, so I'll try and keep it short.
No, you can be as long as you want.
Cool. All right. So I had the luck and good fortune to produce a feature film prior to that. It was a long form, lowish budget drama, which was essentially a kind of small crew. There was some older big bods at the top, but they wanted it to be made by young people, partly because they were probably tired. We made this film. It was called The Punk. It was alternative title was The Punk and the Princess. So it was a Romeo and Juliet kind of urban love story based heavily on Romeo and Juliet, written by a kid called Gideon Sams, who, if you know the history of this book, it was Jay Landesman published it in the 70s, and it was sort of like a DIY published Romeo and Juliet story. So this was an adaptation of that. We'd made it. We were showing it in a preview screening room in West End to try and get distributors and press and whatever. And this guy from Dolby came to tweak the cinema. They used to come in with their little knobs and tweakers and all that kind of stuff and make sure the sound was just right, because it was really important for Dolby. And he happened to be the guy that put on the cinema field at the festival. This guy, Michael Denner, his name is not Evis. But he'd been doing this stuff with the festival for years, and he'd bowl up with an articulated lorry with a massive 35mm projector in the back and a cinema screen that was about 3 stories high. And when, licensing laws back then, and still are, the main stage acts had to stop at, say, 11 or whatever, just as it had started to get dark. And everyone that would bowl up the field to, thousands of people. I mean, I think you could probably sit about 5,000 people in that field. Amazing sound system and everything. And he asked us if we could show our film, because it was sort of youth-oriented and all that. And we didn't have a release plan. And we said, why not make it the premiere? That showed on the Sunday night, but then this idea started to form in our heads, and got in touch with just every filmmaker we knew. They were going to let us camp behind what was then the Jazz stage, which then became the Glade stage. So it was a good spot to be based, because it was like halfway up from the Greenfields in Babylon.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any money. I mean, I think I probably had a couple of grand in the bank, which would have been enough, which was enough to feed everyone, to pay for petrol and all that. But we didn't have any cameras or film stock or any of that. So it was like an all points bulletin went out. And in the meantime, we had this limited company, and I didn't realize, but you could get lines of credit with various people. So I then got in touch with all the film stock manufacturers, because you had to film on film back then.
Of course.
One roll of film, 10 minutes of 35mm film probably cost about 350 quid just for the stock. So that was really totally, I mean, how are we going to do this? But for some reason, AGFA, I don't know why, they on tick, on a line of credit, gave us about 60K's worth of film stock, 35mm and 16mm film stock. And this is incredibly expensive stuff. It's super precious. But we were all kind of ex-film students, and we knew, and filmmakers, and, we'd had our, what we call hands in the bag. We knew how to change reels, and we knew how to look after it, and we knew how to pull focus and handle lenses and change lenses. And, we'd had our hands on these cameras before. And so then I went to Panavision, same hire company that Kubrick used.
Oh, wow.
And I actually thought they were Kubrick's lenses that we got, but these were anamorphic, like CinemaScope lenses. and he never shot in CinemaScope. But we got the lenses that they shot the Italian job on.
Excellent.
These are anamorphic fast prime lenses, they're called. It's like CinemaScope, like David Lean, Star Wars, all those big films with the ultra wide screen. That was our idea, to make it as like a big as big a production as we can, as much detail. It was like the IMAX of its time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it was in our intention to try and preserve that moment for future generations. And so the other thing was, these guys would, because we were young filmmakers, they would often let you hire their kit for a lot less than they would a normal commercial production. So for about 10% of the price, we got several of these cameras and several of these lenses. And that was it. We were off.
Were you praying to the Glasgow gods that it weren't going to be a rainy deluge?
Right. Do you know what? I didn't even think about it.
With all that expensive
it was just go and go. Yeah, but they were insured, so whatever. Wasn't ours.
Yeah, if it was yours, it would have been very different.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, some people showed up with their stuff. There's this lovely guy, this Icelandic filmmaker that I'm still friends with. He had a 16mm camera with a really, really special lens on it. And obviously, because he knew we had the film stock, he came down. He has a really good eye. So a lot of his stuff's in the films. And that's kind of what it was. It was lots of filmmakers / people with technical experience, with good eyes, good compositional skills, and with a kind of inside looking out sort of perspective, So we knew our subject, because most of us had been to the festival several times. I mean, half the people used to, that were in our group of Liga / filmmakers were, we're old hands. So we knew where to go.
But it comes across because, like when you watch it, and I obviously rewatched it again, and you're really in the thick of it. This is not just like a concert film. This is literally Glastonbury, and especially in that snapshot in time. I mean, you must have hours of footage.
Yes.
I mean, I know you said the film stock was expensive, but you must have hours of footage.
Yeah.
I bet some of it, knowing Glastonbury, especially back then, was pretty wild. How did the crowd react? How big were the cameras? Because obviously they're not mobile phones.
No.
You're feeling visible with these cameras. How did they react to you?
One phone on the entire site, apart from the wind phones in the Greenfield, So they thought, everyone who knows Glastonbury knows that there's always some sort of travelling theatre thing going on. Someone pretending to be a tea lady, or the cuckolded guys. The guys, they're in the film with the underpants. They've got crying brides behind them. There's always, so people just thought we were one of those theatre groups pretending to make a movie.
That's fun.
Yeah. And people would be like, don't look in the camera, and there's obviously had to cut all the stuff where people are obviously showing off in front of it, but people were so natural. People were so not used to having that kind of thing around, that we just kind of got on with it. At one point, this guy came up to us while we had the cameras a lot of the time mounted in an old 2CV, this old Citroens, aren't they? And you could, that's what the Nouvelle Vague people, who are the Truffaut and Godard, all these French revolutionaries of cinema in the early 60s, they used to use these cars because they got amazing suspension. Okay. So they would use them like for dolly cars, for camera, for traveling shots. So we were so lucky to have one of these. You can take all the seats out and you can take all the doors off, plonk a camera and a tripod on it, and just tool around filming. And it just looks like you're floating through the crowd. At one point, we're there, sort of changing the reel or something like this, and this guy comes up to us with an American accent and says, "Hey guys, you see you're making a movie," and then he goes, he said, "I directed Woodstock."
What?
Oh yeah, we were like, yeah, whatever. We didn't believe him. And it turns out it was Michael Wadley who directed Woodstock.
Oh my God.
Wandered off with a flea in his ear. We said something like, "Oh yeah, Jesus is in the field over there, by the way." Because it was so much more of an innocent age, we just got away with it. And, we got away with climbing up on the stage because we had these backstage passes. We'd just go and knock on the door of the caravan of the management or the band and say, "Oh, you'd be all right if we filmed you." And they'd be like, "Yeah, sure." Don't know what management label are going to say. And that was something we just dealt with later on down the line. That's why it took more than 2 years to finish it. It was just trying to, to get the nod and the okay from whoever it is, because we filmed a lot of people. And obviously at the time there was a few who said no, and a few that have kind of come back since then.
I regret it.
Well, yeah, I don't know whether they regretted the initial, because, you know, in the first instance, it was just a film about a festival, and people who didn't, and a lot of people didn't know what Glastonbury was. I mean, it's an amazing multicultural 3-day, you know, carnival of joy and togetherness, you know. But a lot of people just thought it was kind of sort of hippie dirt fest. But it's so multicultural even back then. But it was kind of seen as like a contemporary film about a music festival, and people were sort of expecting to see bands on stage wall to wall. When we all, I mean, I don't even go to Glastonbury for the bands. You know, year one when I went, I don't think I saw one pyramid stage act. You know, it's about just finding yourself in these weird situations. That's the best thing about it to me. Anyway.
It's so funny. This is a common thread, like, for our guests so far.
Yeah.
Everyone says the same thing, and it's going to be brilliant for new listeners and new people considering going to Glastonbury. It's like, what do you mean you don't go and see the bands? And we're like, we try and explain that it's so more than that. We says, of course, go and see a band you love or some music, but we're saying it's way more than just the music.
Yeah, there's hundreds of stages, you know, playing so much more interesting stuff than those egos on the main stage. You know what I mean? And that's money, isn't it? And a lot of the time is main stage, money, ego, and flash in the pan a lot of the time. I can't even remember who was on the main stage in '93 when we filmed it. I mean, Robert Plant was there, but stage 2, you know, all these guys are still going. A lot of the people who are in the film they're still hot. Omar got himself an MBE last year. You know, Stereo MCs are touring at the moment. Lemonheads just did a tour. The Orb just did a big, massive night in London. You know, the idea was to include people in the film who are spiritualized, you know, still huge. Include people in the film whose music we felt would have longevity and was good in its own sake rather than being of the era. You know, we wanted to try and create something that was timeless. And we've always wanted to create an anthropological thing for future generations. And that's why this 100 hours of extra footage that we've got, which isn't in film, I really want people to see. I want it to be somewhere in an archive. The next project after this cinema release that we've got going on is to try and partner up with the BFI. They were kind of partners in the initial release of the film. We got the very first lottery money. We got a very small amount. The film was invited to premiere at the London Film Festival, but we didn't know how to finish it. We didn't have the money. We just basically had it on tape at the time, and it was going to cost about 20 grand to do the sound mix and to get the film prints ready for the festival. And we heard about this national lottery thing out of the blue. It sounded like they were putting money into films. So we just on spec sent in an application and we got it. And we had the very first check written for the entire national lottery, everything, 001, you know.
Excellent.
And then the rest is history, you know. So the BFI have just got themselves this really incredible 4K digital scanner in the National Archive. So I'm going to propose to them that potentially we partner up and I clean up all of the extra stuff that didn't make it into the film, some of which is still brilliant, and just have it sitting there for future eyes. It was about the people. It was about the atmosphere and the experience. And I think there seems to be some sort of weird nostalgia thing going on now. Not weird for us, because it's managed to get into 100 cinemas and counting. 5 more came in on Friday and another 2 yesterday. So it's really great. It's really snowballing.
That's brilliant. Whose idea was it to have no narration? Because I think it works brilliantly.
Always, it was mine.
That's well done, because it works brilliantly.
Yeah. No, definitely no narration, because it's meant to be an experiential journey. You know, the choice of using this IMAX Circa 93 format, and you know, I mean, it's one of the most difficult things to do, to sort of capture images in that way. But the resolution's so fantastic. I saw it in a cinema on Sunday, and the screen was enormous, and you can read what's on the T-shirt of the guy in the background. You know,
that's brilliant.
You can see the menu in the cafes, and you know what's written on the side of the van as it drives past. All that stuff is just there's so much you know, density to the images that you just get immersed in it. So to have someone talking, or to have someone sort of giving their idea, I just never liked the idea of someone's opinion. The opinion is that of the audience, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder. So it was just to be as revealing as possible, and just to give as much of a sense of what it is like to be there. And I think the film really works. You know, audiences are like blown away by it.
You mentioned it's in 100 cinemas. Where can people find out where it is and when it's on?
If only we'd had this podcast a few weeks ago, because we had the opening weekend on Glastonbury weekend where it showed in 40 cinemas around Britain. So it's still in about 60 more. It just carries on going up through the season.
We'll put the website there for the other show notes where people can see it's in the town. It sounds like a band's tour. This does.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, it's sort of. Maybe I should get the T-shirt done.
It's good.
5 more Q&As.
Excellent.
Glasgow in August.
And so anyone listening who's considering going to Glastonbury for the first time, what tips would you give them?
Apart from chill out,
Mm-hmm.
drink lots of water, don't try and hold it in. Just use the long drops. You know what I mean? Just how everybody could. So they do. Nice change of socks, clean underwear, and don't buy beer off the Scousers. It's always warm. What else? I just don't know what it's like now. It must be enormous.
Oh, it's probably, since you've went, it's probably tripled the size.
Yeah. When was the last time you went?
I'll go every year, so I was there last year. Yeah. So I'll give you this idea of the scale. Last year, every day I walked 40,000 steps.
Sheesh.
Yeah. I don't feel guilty about having lots of ciders and eating 5 meals a day there because I'm burning.
Exactly. So do you go to like go ban, so I've got to go to there and then I've got to get
that's one of the things I always recommend.
So that's the advice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't think that you're ever going to get to see that because it'll wind you up. So I look at the the groups like yours, the Glastonbury chat group and all that. And last year people were saying there was all these crushes as everyone's trying to rush from that show to that show, and it just sounds like a little bit a lot of hard work, you know.
Yeah, I remember.
No plan. Let's see. Don't form a plan. You don't think you're going to go and see that thing.
No, I choose a free a day. I recommend 3 must-sees a day. Them out, then must-sees, and then just go. That's of amazing music and amazing artists and different types of performances. And when I wrote about the crushes actually, and I said go the long way instead of the crowd, and you can still get to wherever you want to go. And 2, just wait 10 minutes because like there's a big gaps between the bands normally, and if you just let that crowd go, have a drink, go to the bathroom, get some food, whatever, amazing how quickly it disperses.
Yeah, exactly.
Who, if you were going again, what's the one act you'd love to see? I'd like
to go back in the past. Can I have my my dream lineup? Right, would be the Miles Davis 1970 band, the Circa Bitches Brew. They played Isle of Wight in 1970. That would be believable. Sly and the Family Stone, circa 1970. Frank Zappa, circa 74. And the original Weather Report lineup. There you go.
That's a great lineup.
That's my dream Saturday night or Saturday, Sunday at Glastonbury. Sitting in a cowpat, wallowing in joy.
That, I think that might be the title of the episode. Sitting in a cowpat, wallowing in joy. I love it.
Well, there you go, guys. 1993. I can barely imagine what the festival was like back then. Do let us know if you were there in 93. Tell us what it was like.
Yeah, as Simon says, if you were in 93, and if you spot yourself in the film, let us know in the Facebook group of Glastonbury Tips or send me an email. Yeah, it was really good to just hear what the old festival was like in the 90s from Robin's perspective and how they made that film. I mean, they're very brave people with all that equipment going down to Worthy Farm and making a movie. Fair play to them all.
You're looking forward, guys. We got some absolutely fascinating guests still to come on the 100% unofficial Glastonbury Festival podcast. We've still got Funky and the Two-Tone Baby. We're going to talk about Thursday at Glastonbury. There's a whole treasure trove of information that is in Mr. Fruge's brain that I'm going to pluck out of him over the next couple of months.
That's right. Yes, we've got musicians coming up. We've got volunteers. We've got artists. We've got poets. So keep listening. Thank you for all the amazing feedback, by the way. Like, me and Simon are blown away. I mean, you got us to #1 on Apple's charts. So wow, it's a joint effort between me, Simon, and all the thousands of you. And keep sending me those messages and questions for other guests like we've been doing. And yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate the support. You are listening to, can I say it, to the 100% unofficial Glastonbury Festival podcast, which is the #1 podcast on Apple Music. God, it feels good saying that.
Oh, yes, it feels so great. Thanks, everyone. And see you on the farm in 2027, I hope.